Thanksgiving in 1770s America looked very different from the holiday you know today. There was no official fourth Thursday in November, no Macy's parade, and no football. But there was gratitude, woven into sermons, meals, and proclamations during some of the most desperate years of the Revolution. To understand Thanksgiving in the Revolutionary era is to glimpse a people who celebrated abundance when they could, but still gave thanks for endurance when they could not. By the early 1700s, New England regularly set aside autumn days of Thanksgiving. They were rooted in Puritan practice. Colonial governors proclaimed them after a good harvest, or military victory, or recovery from illness, and the people spent the morning in church and the afternoon at shared meals. When war broke out in 1775, patriots carried this tradition into their struggle for independence. Thanksgiving was no longer just about harvest, it became political. Gratitude was not for corn and cider, but for survival in battle and victories against the crown. The first national Thanksgiving of the Revolution came after the stunning victory at Saratoga in October 1777. For the first time, the Continental Congress proclaimed a day of unified gratitude across the 13 states. The proclamation read in part, "It is therefore recommended to set apart Thursday, the 18th day of December next, for solemn thanksgiving and praise, that with one heart and one voice the good people may express the grateful feelings of their hearts, and join the penitent confession of their manifold sins, that it may please God to prosper the means of carrying on this just and necessary war." Families gathered in churches to hear sermons, and afterwards they feasted the best they could. In some homes, roasted goose or turkey appeared on the table. In others, stewed pumpkin or cornbread filled the plates. That 1777 Thanksgiving wasn't about tradition. It was about declaring that heaven itself smiled on the patriot cause. George Washington also saw the value of Thanksgiving during wartime. As commander-in-chief, he implemented congressional proclamations for days of prayer and gratitude and ordered the Army to observe them, including December 1777's Day of Thanksgiving, for recent victories and the success of the cause. Later, as president, Washington would proclaim the first official national Thanksgiving in 1789. Now, Thanksgiving tables in Revolutionary America rarely resembled today's. Imported luxuries like refined sugar and many spices grew scarcer and more expensive during the war. Many families leaned harder on what they already knew. Well, they had molasses, they had maple as sweeteners, they had cornmeal or rye instead of wheat, pumpkin stews and porridges, and some cider at the table. For soldiers in the field, the day could be even bleaker. In December 1777, as the Army encamped at the place the soldiers called the Gulf in Pennsylvania, Congress ordered the day of Thanksgiving. Well, Joseph Plum Martin later remembered the famous rice and vinegar Thanksgiving of that year, when each man received only a half gill of rice and a spoonful of vinegar, and wrote that he often went 1, 2, 3, and even 4 days without a morsel of food. Gratitude for many soldiers was much more spiritual than physical. Though the Revolution gave Thanksgiving new meaning, its menu also varied by region. So, in New England, families often served turkey, pumpkin pies, corn pudding, and boiled root vegetables. The middle colonies, like Pennsylvania, they leaned on their German influence with spiced cakes and sausages. And in the southern colonies, you were more likely to find flavored venison, ham, and rice dishes on the plate. Perhaps the most striking part of Revolutionary Thanksgiving is how often they were marked not by plenty, but by loss. Families would gather with empty chairs at the table, sons and fathers gone to war. Mothers would read letters aloud by candlelight, bridging that absence with their words. Some communities organized shared meals so widows and orphans would not be alone. By the war's end, Thanksgiving had become not just a New England custom, but a shared tradition across the colonies. It carried memories of sermons preached over cannon smoke, of soldiers singing hymns on empty stomachs, and of families choosing gratitude amid uncertainty. When George Washington, as president, proclaimed a national day of Thanksgiving in 1789, he was drawing directly from revolutionary practice. So this year, as you gather around a modern table with your modern comforts and modern distractions, take a moment to remember the nationalized Thanksgiving holiday we know today was born from a choice. The choice to give thanks even when life is uncertain, imperfect, or frankly, unbearably hard. Because then and now, Thanksgiving is really about this. It's about seeing the blessings you already have, honoring the struggles that brought you here, and choosing deliberately to be thankful. Happy Thanksgiving.